You spent years making fun of the people that could fire you, and they were only meters away from you. What's the psychological profile of a person like that?
I truthfully never intended for it to last more than a week or two, to be honest with you. At that point, have been very scared for it to have grown. Ari Emanuel, he shared a screenshot of one of the memes to the entire company worldwide. And the first email was, "Who sent this?" And I was like, holy shit.
Are you willing to work for free?
It depends how successful you want to be. If you want it bad enough, you will do whatever it takes to get your foot in the door.
One of the CEOs that I'm advising has got rid of 75% of his team in the last 4 weeks. And he's telling me that the AI agents are now performing better than any employee he can hire that's 70 grand or under. Which at the moment is your whole audience.
If you eliminate entry-level employees, it will help you in the short term without a doubt. But 5 years down the line, 3 years down the line, that's an extremely short-sighted decision for a lot of these companies.
This is how profitable companies still go bankrupt. This is the Black Hoodie. We talk to 3,500 comedy and music industry executives on our newsletter at theblackhoodie.com. But you're watching this on YouTube, and we recently had a video get over 20,000 views, which is surprising for an industry podcast like this. So if you are somebody who consumes all your content on YouTube, please hit subscribe. Warner, you spent years making fun of the people that could fire you, and they were only meters away from you. What's the psychological profile of a person like that?
Of me or them? And also, it's good to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
Tell us both. Tell us both.
I mean, look, like I was lucky enough. So I started my career at WME, working for 3 bosses who I loved. And so a lot of people are surprised, and I say that every time I have the opportunity. I had a great experience there. And a lot of, when I started my career there, it took me 6 months to land an interview. Never been to LA. Didn't have any connections to the music industry. It was a dream of mine to always work in it. Started, worked there, I think about 2 months later, started the Instagram account. And the lens of that account and still isn't attacking a single person, isn't attacking even a single company, but really is highlighting or lowlighting sometimes the themes of our industry as a whole. So a lot of the things that were posted and are posted, aren't ever directed at people. So I was also anonymous, so people didn't have any idea it was me. I'm still very close with those 3 bosses I had there. And so, the music industry is full of characters, man. I'm not going to make that, same with the entertainment as a whole. But, I think I felt pretty good about it, given I wasn't calling certain people out by name, but I also never expected the account to grow to more than 10 followers, to be honest with you. So that's kind of the
So your
start
first
of
job, you're 2 months in, you start this account. Had you created any kind of like community or anything else in your younger years? Or was this your first attempt? Yeah,
community's always been kind of in my blood, and like something that I've always attached to and trying to create. I was an athlete in school. I played lacrosse in school D1, and there was that community brotherhood mentality that I tried to bring to everything I did, throughout my life. So I started booking shows in college, and like that, I got hurt playing lacrosse, tried to fill the time, and I missed that community aspect. And I started to find that by booking concerts, and I would convince a bar owner to let me use his room or, whatever shitty bar it may be, bring 50 of my friends and 100 of my friends, a couple hundred. So that was the start for me of building community, but also realizing there was a career in the music industry potentially that I wanted to explore.
So give everybody the context. Explain exactly what assistance versus agents is.
So it depends when you're asking what it is, but it started as a meme page, Instagram only, taking the lens of an assistant in Hollywood. At that point, it was more specifically an assistant in the music industry in LA, I guess, but it's evolved since to now being an educational ecosystem. So we have a newsletter, we have a big job board, we have ambassadors at 121 colleges. We do 20 events a year, but all of it's focused on giving resources and building community for that next generation of entertainment more broadly. So TV, film, music still core of it, sports, digital, creator economy. We also have media projects. So this live, we do a podcast. We're launching a live show, some scripted stuff, non-scripted, and we're building tech. So it's evolved from a meme page to what I don't know how you define it at this point, maybe half media, half educational ecosystem, but still the core of it remains. Everything I do is focused on those first 100 people that follow the account, or 5, I guess 10, and trying to give back to this next generation coming up.
So I want to get into the evolution of meme page to business, but you said you started the account anonymously. So I want to understand something. When you decided to be anonymous, did you want to be anonymous because you were scared, or you felt that anonymity kind of made you braver? They're two different things.
Yeah.
And so I want to understand the psychology of the anonymous start.
I mean, so there were a couple of us that started it initially, and 3 other people kind of just after a day or two were kind of like, yeah, we were just posting memes on there. So there wasn't a real intention behind starting it, besides just hopefully to make each other laugh in that group who were sitting on the 8th floor of WME, 10 or 15 of us. And so there really wasn't a purpose behind starting it other than pure entertaining the core people that were around me. So I truthfully never intended for it to last more than a week or two, to be honest with you, and definitely not grow past those people. And I would, at that point, have been very scared for it to have grown. So as it evolved, yeah, I mean, at that point, I was so serious about my work and loved what I did, and was trying to get promoted to agent, which I ended up doing. And there was no reason for me to say it was me, but also at some point, I was like, do I just end this? Because now I'm like, it's grown to a point where it did make me nervous. Certainly, if I didn't want my boss who runs the music division to know that I was kind of cracking jokes at not his expense, but at the industry's expense. So yeah, it wasn't like bravery or anything, and it was just I truthfully fell into it by accident and just didn't have a plan when I started it.
So you start mucking around with some early memes. What were the first few posts, or tell me, 1 or 2 of these posts that you felt like really broke out and made the account what it is today?
Yeah, I mean, so they were very specifically talking about reviewing a contract or chasing a deposit, very things that only music assistants or others would understand. And then kind of broadened it up. I saw assistants at other companies like CAA, ICM at that point, RIP, and a bunch of music management companies follow the account. So I started to broaden the scope of what the context was. And it really flatlined around a couple hundred followers, maybe 1,000 for like a year. And then it started to grow. And I was at WME for probably two years. Went over to Live Nation, and it was just starting to pick up then. And Ari Manuel, and I've told the story before, who ran WME at that point, runs Endeavor now, or his new venture, but you would know him from Endeavor. He shared while he was still at Endeavor, shared a screenshot of one of the memes to the entire company worldwide. And there's thousands of people that work at
Describe
Endeavor.
The meme that he shared.
It was it's kind of funny. It's like visualizing what a meme looks like. But essentially it was when there was a merger potentially on the horizon, and CAA was the butt of this joke, who I ended up being a client there for a bit, which is kind of funny full circle. But and it pretty much said, like, we can't defeat WME alone, but together we can. So it was kind of a fun, like, I don't know what the format was, like a big soldier up top with like burning flames and whatever. And so he thought it was funny because in his earlier years had pulled a prank and allegedly bought some billboards that said "can't," CAANT. So he pretty much said, like, love this. The first email was actually, who sent this? And at that point I got hundreds of calls and texts being like, dude, you're screwed. And I was scared. He's a very powerful person. Ari
But
Gold.
he was sharing it with affection, wasn't he?
Not the first email, I didn't know. And the first email was, who sent this? And I was like, holy shit. Because I wasn't working at Endeavor at that point, or WME, but it got back to me quickly because I was at Live Nation and we did a lot of business with them. So the second follow-up email was, loved it, wish you used can. At that point I was like, I'm safe. But it was then that I was like, okay, it's more than just assistants reading this. Assumingly someone sent it to him and it got back. He wasn't following the account. I don't think he does these days. But yeah, that was like the time where there was a big switch in my mind, and I think the perception of it.
Yep. Okay. So you've turned this thing into a business, and I want you to draw something for me. I'm going to give you my iPad here.
I'm the worst drawer.
That's okay.
Artist ever, but
we'll recreate it in the edit.
Yeah.
But I want you to draw a circle, start of a pie chart.
Okay.
I want you to tell me, as a percentage of revenue now, and describe it as you're drawing it.
Yeah.
where is the revenue for your business at the moment?
Yeah.
So what is 50%? What is 20%? Sort of break it down any kind of way that you want.
Yeah, and I'll walk you through as I am drawing this. We just did this yesterday, Ren. So right now, I would say 60% is brand partnerships. So a good example is we built a rage room in a movie theater for 20th Century Disney for one of their films that had Hollywood assistants come in and break things. We, with that, we do specific or targeted digital campaigns as well for a bunch of different companies that we've worked with. Most recently did stuff with Hulu. But then we also throw events. So I'll put in here, there's a blend because events, we keep our events free. Some of them are ticketed at a low price, but because we have the ability to put on events, it opens up a whole new revenue stream for us. So we just threw an award show, 500 Hollywood assistants. We did 20 events last year. And we have brands like Red Bull and Grun's CPG brand to Lalo Tequila to Don Julio will sponsor our events. And so there's a big revenue driver there. I was in the music festival business for a long time. So after Live Nation, so that was my bread and butter, was brand partnerships. So, but 60% now would be purely brands. And then I would say 30% would be events. And again, this is
events, are you saying ticketed events, or are you saying the sponsorship dollars that go to events?
I would say 25% would be sponsorship dollar that go towards events. And then probably 5% of that would be tickets. And I try to keep them, very low cost. Every event we do, we donate to charity. This last one, we donate to 6 nonprofits, including Save the Music. And then there's that 10%. I'm trying to check my math because it's not my strong suit, but 10% would be a blend now of, we have a recruiting business, which we just launched. We have a job board, which we launched 3 months ago, about 20 to 25,000 unique applicants a month, all bootstrapped to this point. That's 10%.
Did you say 20,000 a month applicants?
Yeah,
wow, that's fantastic.
It's
actually enormous.
And it's all been organic. And I think that does show the amount of people that are trying to work in this industry. And the limited roles, and there's a lot of more in-depth conversation we could have around that. But so that's right now. You ask me though in 6 months, this question.
Okay, hang on. That was my next thing.
Yeah.
I want you to draw a new pie.
Yeah.
And what you think or what you want it to look like in 3 years.
Yeah. So wait, we might have to redo this because it's one of the worst drawings of all time. But we'll call it owned IP is 10%, because that for us is the job board, the newsletter. We also have a newsletter, so we sell ads in that, and which are, I guess, a brand but different.
So when you say 60% of your revenue comes from brands, is the newsletter the primary source?
Instagram. Yeah. So we do. Yeah. Okay. So big partnerships on Instagram. Digital campaigns for a show. Say we did some stuff with Amazon Prime or Apple TV, will come to us and say, we have this show we want to promote. So we'll come with creative ideas, either creating memes for them, which is great. You can monetize the memes, or some original content. So we just worked with the Golden Globes. We've done stuff with Red Bull on their carpets, and we do a lot of original content now. But you asked me that in 6 months, because right now we're what I sat with the past couple of months is these social platforms are rented. What we have is an owned community and a definable niche. So my whole goal has been to flip that model, so we're not relying on brands.
Before you go on, what's the difference between owned and rented?
Owned is, I think, I would define our newsletter business as a very owned audience. So we have about 40,000. We just started it, but really just started. I mean, it's been going for a couple of years, but really started going 3 times a week and on a cadence. So owned is something that you can go direct to them, and that maybe they won't open it one day, in their inbox, their newsletter. But an owned audience, you have direct access to. Hopefully, ideally, right? Like if they open the email, it's also events. So when we put on events and pack 700, 800 people in a room for some of our bigger ones, down to 20 to 30 person dinners that are very much more curated. That's an owned audience. Those are people that are making the conscious decision to show up and either support you or be, involved in whatever project you're doing in your community. Rented audience is everything on social. And you are reaching sometimes 1% to 5%, 10% if you're lucky, of your audience when you're posting, whether it be an Instagram story or a TikTok or YouTube, probably higher metrics, but hopefully, that's the roulette wheel. And that's what a lot of creators and others are, are worried about. And, in fighting against the overly saturated excess of content, there's 93 million Instagram posts a day, 20 million YouTube videos, 23 million TikToks posted every day. So you're fighting against that for every creator, and there's more and more creators. Now there's AI. So that's a rented audience. You post something online and you hope it reaches your community or audience, your followers for social, but you're not guaranteed. And that's why I've put so much emphasis on owning our niche, our definable niche, which is people that work in entertainment and students, and care less about how many views a Instagram reel or a TikTok will receive, or like really how many followers we have on socials. I care a lot more about the engagement and those own channels. And there's probably someone smarter than me would throw in a couple other own channels, but I see that for us as our event business, the tech will build as well as our newsletter side of the business.
Okay, so 3 years from now, what does this pie look like?
This pie is going to be 90%, well, I guess events. So I would say 90% owned IP, and that includes events, and 10% brand revenue. For us, we, instead of going and working with, love them, but a Hulu, a 20th Century, or Amazon MGM, or you name it, Mattel, etc., on one of their pieces of IP or TV show, we're going to make our own. And whether it be a long form scripted show, or we're coming out and we're working on a short form scripted series, that's our IP. So we're going to monetize through that. It could be brand funded, but I view that as our own IP, and it's within our control to how that scales versus relying on a brand to hit us up like Red Bull and saying, we want to sponsor something.
Here's a brief, respond to the brief.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's a risk, because like I just walked you through how much content is going up every day on social media, and all of those pieces of content are fighting for those same dollars.
Yep.
So the focus now is like, how can you create it? I mean, I call it like an analog experience where you go back to like events and you go back to like owned, it's like a TV show model where it's going to be coming out every week, and that's your IP. So there's a merch side of the business.
So you're going to make the Entourage version from Lloyd's perspective, or what?
That's the goal. We actually showed Entourage. We screened Entourage with Rex Lee, I think a year or two ago, which was very full circle, because the account definitely takes a lens of him. But so I would say like 90% would be owned, and I would include events in that. So I'll break out probably 70% owned IP, which includes tech that we're building.
What kind of tech?
So it's going to be, there's a lot of buzz around AI and admin automation from large tech companies who don't understand the nuances and aren't here to protect a workforce that relies on relationships, and clients, which is entertainment. So we're building, not to get too complicated, but verticalized, so single industry admin automation that keeps a human in the loop. So instead of Claude or OpenAI coming in and trying to give you an agent to replace a person or a workflow, we're giving that person or an assistant the tools to automate a lot of the admin that they're faced with, to power generation, but also purpose built for our industry. So we've been working on that for almost a year. We'll release it in the next 2 months. It's probably one of the first times I've talked about it, but I'm passionate about it.
Who are the customers for it?
So the customers are twofold: enterprise level. So we'll go direct to the agencies, management companies, studios, and then the end user, which will be direct to consumer, which will be assistants. And there will be two models going out. I think the interesting part about our industry is it's more fractured and fragmented than ever. There's a lot of companies that don't have the tech or infrastructure to go and build technology that will even the playing field for them. And that is exciting to be able to purpose build something, and again, not take a brand deal from an AI company. They hit us up every day. Can you sell our AI product to your community that threatens their job? And the answer is no. I'd rather just build something to at least try to help protect jobs. So that's the big focus now. And I include that in the bucket of IP, because we'll be monetizing that obviously in a much bigger way, while being able to keep all of our other products free, like our job board's free right now. Our newsletters is completely free, and we're thinking
Job
about
board
tiers.
is free for the posters or for the applicants?
Free for the applicants and posters though too. I mean, sometimes look like we have a recruiting arm
You
of the
don't
business.
charge for posting a job?
Not always. We do. If you want to post a job, there's a charge, but we also handpick jobs from companies. We have about 250 jobs up there now. We realize that not every company can afford to post a job, and I still believe in, there's a business side of me, but there's also a, moral side where if I see a really unique job there was a charitable organization that I love, Backline is in music, and they asked us to, I saw a job from them, and I just told them I'll post it for free. Like, I'm not going to charge a charity to post a job that can help people. So
You could definitely have carve-outs of charities, but I think if a company has enough money to hire someone, they have enough money to pay you a few $100s to post a job.
we do, trust me. We are for sure. And
creating a job board at my last media business was the first experience I ever had of recurring revenue. And even though it was like such a small percentage of our total revenue, it tasted so good.
Yeah, it does,
It was just always on. You didn't have to always try to win it every week. It was really cool.
Yeah, and we sell banners on the job board, banners in our newsletter. We do a bunch of newsletter partnerships. So, but again, the newsletter, like, we would rather grow our audience in a massive way and then sell that to brands than limit the audience we create, because we're trying to make $5 a pop from a newsletter subscriber.
Yeah,
I'd rather charge 100 times that to a brand and be able to keep it free and grow. And there are decisions that we will be forced to make to charge for certain things. But right now, up until this point, for new ventures, we were focused on growth, retention, and engagement, and that's done through taking sacrifices sometimes. So
yeah.
But then the tech side, we'll charge for sure, because it's a true product.
100%. How's that looking? Because I'm
Pretty bad. I mean, if you want to
give me a look,
but like, that's how I write like a child.
All right,
but
fantastic.
the reason why
makes sense. No, I can see it here.
But the reason why I included IP and events in that second bucket, call it in 3 years, is because right now we're funding our award show through 15 brands. We still will, but we're gonna, with the tech company we're creating, or there'll be offshoots of, say, a project or a CPG brand. Those will be, funding, call it the events we do. So there's a carve out in there, for the 10% for brands, but I see it, for like single larger partnerships than a bunch of a la carte.
So I'm looking at this pie chart, and I read the news that you just signed with UTA in December, I believe. What do they do for you?
So I was just chatting on the way here, but, I have bigger ambitions, and I always have, than just running, an Instagram page. Like, I had a career building businesses, running a brand agency, launching and overseeing music festivals. And I had never intended to build this into a business. So it's always been a life. The first, call it 6 years, were a lifestyle, leisure, some revenue coming in here and there. And, it was fun to operate, but sat down 2 years ago and said, there's a serious opportunity here to create business in multiple sectors here. We own an audience that's really hard to reach, that has been overseen for a long time or overlooked. So to answer your question, UTA provides the ability to make transactions for long form content, for the brand side, for a book that we're working on, and for other opportunities, speaking engagements down the line. And so
they're helping you secure commercial deals for the IP that you're developing.
Yeah, exactly.
Get you a show produced, get your book published, whatever that might be. And they're also acting as your sales team for the brands.
Yeah, I mean, look, like, I am lucky that I came in I guess people consider me or us creator. Like, I see myself more as running the business, and there's times where I have to go and be the face of it, but I prefer to be in the background and moderating a lot of what we're doing and interviewing people. But, they're the opportunity to switch on a more, like, to turn on the business sense of where we're heading needs, team around us. And like, that was the decision, that was made, if to create durable business units under AVA, I need experienced operators and, a sales team. So I'm not the one following up, trying to make the sale, following up for an invoice. And like, it was chaos, like, for the past couple of months, and there needed to be
So do they
internal.
proactively work for you, or do they just manage the inbound?
Both, yeah, for sure, both. But I guess what I was saying was like I ran the brand agency, so that I went into the relationship with them with all those contacts that I have. So, but they, provide great structure and then bring me opportunities that I haven't hadn't seen before. So
I ran a sales team at my media business, and we had very, stressful, ambitious, hard to reach commercial goals every quarter because I had, $5 million worth of salaries, and I had, you just had to kind of hit these targets to pay everyone and make sure everyone's fed. How does that work if you're outsourcing that to an agency? You can't. Can you really drive them to targets and things? It's just whatever they can get, right?
Yeah, but I'm running I run a lot of our outbound still. So So like the deals we're doing now, I run outbound. They help close. They're bringing in new deals, so they're running inbound or outbound. We'll both help close. They'll close, negotiate. But I get the advantage that I have, and as a company, is I'm still sending 10, 15, 20 emails a day to all these brands saying, hey, we have an upcoming live show. You want to sponsor it? Or we have a event, or hey, I saw you're releasing this movie. We should work with you. So I can control that in a more structured way. I'm not handing that off completely ever, because I love that side of the business.
Ever. How big's the team now?
Yeah. What do you say?
How big's the team now?
We grew from, so again, 8 months. We probably have 8 or 9. We'll double that in the next couple months. Is that full time? Moving full time, yeah. So just structured the whole legal thing, Topco, exciting time. Hopefully when I watch this back in a year, I'll be laughing. But, there's structure around something that has grown for 7 years with IP, and not to get too technical, but now creating, multiple businesses underneath. So we'll move to hopefully 10 full time soon. And in very specific areas. So the newsletter, we have a production team for the live show. We have, a growth team. We have events team who will run that, and as we scale. But it's a lot building as we go, and that's exciting. But trying to just create some structure, and I can't be in Canva till 2 a.m. like I always have been, creating memes and also doing whatever we do on the design side.
Where have you found the biggest gap in your knowledge, experience, getting to this sort of $1 million in payroll?
Yeah.
As you're growing, it's kind of until you, the first $3 million is fucking hard, right?
Yeah.
In revenue. And it's when you kind of always feel the most out of your depth.
Yeah.
What has made you feel the most exposed in terms of your experience?
Yeah, I think it's, I've been at 6 or 7 companies in the past, 3 tech companies, a big, behemoth like WME and Live Nation, been at really small, 15, 20 person tech companies. This is the first time that, there's no safety net. And I think that's exciting, but it's scary. Every morning you wake up and say, okay, I have payroll due today. I have expenses. I also have rent that it has to be paid. And, that's for everyone, but that's coming out of a business that's making, God, I'm not, I gave up everything else I was doing. So you are in the driver's seat for not only yourself, but there's now all these people relying on you. And that's exciting but it's also scary. And I've been on the flip side of
terrifying.
That. It's terrifying. And you don't really think about that. When you're at a WME, you're getting paid every day every time you're getting paid on time, same amount, you're getting a paycheck. When you're on the flip side of that, it's something you don't really think about at these large companies. So yeah, and also the knowledge gap, and I just move very quickly, and I have great ADHD, which allows us to be in 40 different places doing these things. But there's also that internal financial structure, running a P&L and having being in touch with your accountant and corporate lawyers like that. I never thought that we would be talking about those topics around AVA, which was just a meme page at that point. So the gap in knowledge is a lot of the technicalities, a lot of the business structure, and the, again, just running a clean P&L. And that's just something where I was in the past, it was just me. So whatever I make, I eat and take home, put in my pocket. I was also making another paycheck. Now it's that's got to go to someone else, which is exciting, but it's
I had
terrifying.
a very similar anxiety where I was managing bands and artists for maybe a decade, and I kind of didn't give a shit if I fucked it, because I was if I fuck it, I'll go get a job, or it's just me and a laptop, whatever, I'll figure it out. Then you start a business, and for me it was a media business, and you convince all of these super talented people to leave their very safe jobs that they've been at for 5-10 years and come and start this thing with you. And no, like if you fuck it now, you fucked all of them.
Yeah.
So it was a real next level stress.
It is.
Yeah.
But again, there's nothing, you said it about every transaction on your job board is a win for you. It's become so personal in like an exciting way where every win is yours or ours. You share it with people versus you go and close a deal at one of these big companies. Maybe you'll get a commission if you're lucky or a bonus at the end of the year, but your daily life's not really changing that much. It's exciting, but when you're in control of a business and your name's attached to it, the wins become sweeter and the losses become a lot worse.
Totally.
For sure.
I've got a friend who works at a bank, very high level, very well paid. And whenever I asked him about his job once, and he goes, if I go to work today and I work really fucking hard and I achieve the world, the bank is going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
If I go to work in my pajamas and I play video games all day and I have a nap under the couch, the bank is going to make a lot of money. It was the most depressing phrase I'd ever heard about someone's job. And I think when you're working at a small business and you're in the close vortex of maybe the first 50 employees somewhere, it's like it makes you feel alive. It's a real impact.
It does. In the tech company, totally separate, co-founder there. We're up to 6 or 7. We'll triple that soon. And like that's also at the same feeling. So we have these two things in parallel that the tech company totally separate, but I'm a co-founder on that with other people. And it's exciting to build with someone, honestly, at that co-founder level. Cause I've been building in a silo on AVA for so long, bringing on super smart young people that are working on AVA and then seeing the same thing happen on Lloyd. It's our tech company. I don't know if I should have said the name, but it's exciting. And
that's hilarious. It's cool. It's a very funny name. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah. So Lloyd, Lloyd. But it's a different feeling to also build with people, right? On something you're all aligned with on the co-founder level. So I don't know, did you have like at your prior businesses, like co-founder, like that like relationship with people?
I don't think I could have been more lucky. My co-founder at the media business was also the sole investor. He was the majority shareholder. I was the CEO, minority shareholder. And he actually also acted as my mentor. And I feel like I did an MBA underneath him. I hit the jackpot. So I know how, unique and lucky that was. Yeah.
Yeah. And like that to me is really important for this next stage of business. Is like you asked where my biggest gap in knowledge, and it is in every area we are in. I never read a newsletter before I started writing one. I don't think I've ever been on a job board besides LinkedIn before I launched one. And like, there's a lot of being naive, which I think has made us successful because we're just doing things like very different. But at the same time, like I know how important it is to now surround myself with people who are smarter than me and experts in their world. And that'll take the business to the next level, which we're actively doing right now.
That's awesome. So I see a tension with your business, and I'd love you to kind of be honest about how you've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
So your audience are assistants who don't have much money.
Yep.
And if those assistants become successful, they turn into executives, and then you kind of lose them as your audience. And so you've got this natural turnstile of audience, and that makes it very challenging to build a long-term business when your audience cycles so quickly if they become successful. How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, and it's been something, great question. It's been something on my mind the past 8 months and the reason why, one of the core reasons why I decided to go full-time was because we built a big student pipeline. So there was that replenishment of people in those roles. But also when I started the account 7-8 years ago, those people who were assistants sitting next to me are now in leadership roles at a lot of the companies I've mentioned before. And we're doing deals with them from an enterprise level. But that's not enough, right? Just taking a check from one of the big studios to promote their IP. But what we're doing now is aggregating a lot of data, providing trends, and working with those companies to then create structure and training programs within a lot of these companies that we're just starting to roll out that then aligns us with a lot of executive level people who are leading these companies in a way that makes for a durable, scalable business. And on the flip side of that, we do host, very often dinners with execs at, my peers or others, where that gives us an ability that most people don't know that because a lot of it's behind closed doors, but we'll sit down with 40 of the top young execs in the industry. You got to come to one of them next. I'll invite you, of course. And we just, we talk about their challenges, what things that would be helpful for us to build. So a lot of the B2B side of the business is what I'm 95% focused on, and allowing the other aspects of the business to remain top of funnel, and not charge. Again, like that's why I'm not charging the student who wants to find a job $5, but I will charge a big company to go and create training programs or.
All right. Churn and burn, high volume of work, very low pay. I want you to answer a few questions.
Yeah.
Like finish some sentences for me.
Yeah.
Unpaid internships in entertainment should be
banned for sure. But, I think you should compensate people for their time, but I did unpaid internships that changed my life. But I think it's hard, right? I mean, I think from a company standpoint, to your point, if you are, and I'm not going to name names, a large company or any company that's making revenue, you should pay interns. Whether $20, what is like $20 an hour to a lot of these large companies? But I will say, like, I got a lot of my experience from just being like, I will volunteer to do whatever it takes to get my foot in the door. And that's how I did it. But at the same time, from a company standpoint, they should be paying interns. Like I pay every single person that works for me. And I'm like, I was a one person company, so it's hard.
Every successful, ambitious person I've ever spoken to, I don't think there is an exception to this rule, there might be, has always done unpaid work.
Yeah, I agree.
So why is there such a hostility to the unpaid internship?
Yeah.
And I'm going to contradict myself later in this podcast because I'm going to show you something. But your first instinct was it should be banned, and then you finish your sentence by saying, I did it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, and I also that was me actively approaching companies to beg for any opportunity I could get. So from a legal standpoint, I think in California, I think it's illegal. But look, every person has to make their own decision. And like the reason why I am entrepreneurial on others probably because they went out and said, look, like I'm not going to wait for an opportunity. Everyone wants these paid internships. I took a risk and approached a promotion company in DC and said, I will literally do whatever it takes to get my foot in the door and start booking shows. And it was a graphic design position. I essentially lied and said I was a graphic designer. I'd taken 2 Photoshop classes and just started designing posters and learning how. And that was my break into the industry. And like, I think to be successful, you have to be really scrappy. You have to take risks. You have to bet on yourself. And that doesn't always come by just applying for a paid internship, which everyone else is trying to do. So it depends how successful you want to be at the end of the day. But like from a legal standpoint, they probably should all be paid.
Yep. Okay.
I don't know though. I probably contradict myself a lot, but like it depends. I don't know. It depends what side of me you're asking.
I think spiritually it's like pay everyone, but I think you should be paid for your value.
Yeah.
And I had never had an issue with me not getting paid. I did an internship at a booking agency for maybe 5 years. I only did it a couple days a week, for a few hours every day. But I didn't get paid, and I didn't ever feel upset about not getting paid because I was just absorbing and learning so much. It's like people pay to go to university.
Yeah.
And I just treated it as free university. And so I think a lot of people do that. A lot of the ambitious people do that.
I mean, every single person, I'm just racking my brain, have definitely done that.
Yeah.
And like I did too. But again, that is how bad do you want it at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And if you want it bad enough, you will do whatever it takes to get your foot in the door. And that's what I did. Like I had 0 people I knew in the music industry, and it worked. But it's a personal decision, I guess, at the end of the day.
And the other thing that you hear a lot from the people in the comments are, it's only for rich people because rich people can afford to work for free or whatever. And that's not true. A lot of successful people I know, including myself, didn't come from rich families.
Yeah.
And I didn't work full-time unpaid. I had a bar job. I went to university. I didn't have a bar job, but I had a retail job.
Yeah.
And I did the hours that I could for free, So there's always time to hustle.
100%. There's I always say people care way too much about titles and way too much about the company they're working for, and should be caring a lot about the rooms they're in and the company they're keeping at those rooms, because you will get an opportunity that's life-changing through a relationship you make at an opportunity that might be shadowing someone you admire successful, way more so than trying to compete with everyone and just get like a flashy title at a company. And it's changed my life to just be like, I want to get in that room because I want to work for that person. And that takes like sacrifice to go and do. And so to your point, yeah, I like on a personal level, like I will still do it. Like sometimes I will still do free work to prove to people that I can provide value, and then flip it and 10x what I was probably going to get before.
My view is you should optimize for one of two things, ideally both. Proximity, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Be around the action, be around the people that can move the dial, or skill development.
Yeah.
Ideally, you want to be in a place where you're in proximity and skill development, but taking one out of two is still pretty good.
Yeah.
And so I think that has a lot of value, and people that get upset because they're not getting the $20 an hour don't appreciate one of those two things, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I went to WME. I actually just posted something about, I said proximity is the biggest single indicator of success in this industry, and I believe it. The skills thing too. It's like my biggest fear when I was involved in corporate America or whatever you want to call it was being in a spot where I wasn't learning every day, where I wasn't being challenged. And it happened, at some opportunities, and I left because just like the feeling comfortable is like makes me sick. I don't want to be comfortable at a job. That's like, I'm not like there. I have like, there's more drive to than just getting a paycheck and going home. And like, there were some opportunities where I stopped learning, or I wasn't in the right rooms that maybe I held on to them for too long, but that was exactly those two reasons where I know I needed to pivot, and I just went for it, probably like sometimes, with just probably should have had a bigger plan, but hey, we're here. So
when you jumped from employee to starting AVA as a business,
yeah,
was there financial risk in that jump in terms of your own personal income, or did you already have a lot of revenue in the pipeline over here where the jump had a kind of a cushion?
Yeah. So I got asked that question pretty recently, and like what I did was made very calculated bets on a couple different areas of the business to ensure that when I did make that jump, that I had enough of a runway to make sure that AVA was going to be successful. So I'd locked in, I gave myself a number, and I said, I need to get to that point of deals in these next 3 months for AVA for me to take the leap, because I calculated the runway based on that and the ability to hire someone or two people at that point. Once I hit that, I think I had a shitty day at work. I worked for I won't get into it, but at a
get into it.
No, at a digital agency, I worked in a toxic environment with people I didn't like. And like, I was like, it just was a combo of hitting that number in mind, and also I think it just having a bad week at work. And I said, screw it, I'm going for it. And like, I went for it. And the first couple of months, yeah, it's like you're working on net 30. What's net 60? That's what I'm working on for some of these deals. And you're like, oh shit, I'm going to lock this deal in and not see that.
Hang on, explain net 30, net 60, because cash flow is the biggest.
Net 60 should be illegal, but
that's the biggest kick in the dick for any entrepreneur when they learn about net 60, net 90, all this cash flow stuff.
Yeah. And so getting a paycheck in the corporate world is net zero. You're essentially being paid on the day that you're closing whatever. You're being paid on the same day every month, guaranteed check in your bank. Net 30 is 30 days post deal closing or contract signed, or sometimes invoice issued. So the deal, the problem that a lot of entrepreneurs face is you'll close a deal, say you close it today, then you have to go negotiate a contract based on that. There could be some red lines. That could take a week or two or three.
Hang on. I'm going to get you to draw this out. Let's start again.
You're going to make me draw again.
Draw the timeline of how a net 60 deal would work.
Yeah.
And assume that it's net 60 after the event has run or the thing has been published or the activation has happened.
Yeah.
So talk as you're drawing.
So I'll put a star here for event or activation happening.
Mm-hmm.
Event could also be a deal closing. So me and you agree to pay me $100 for something I'm doing, hopefully more. I couldn't survive on that, but and we say, great. We agree to the terms being $100 for an exchange of something, a service potentially, or an event, sponsorship. Then either you or me issue each other a contract. That could take a couple days to write up. Hopefully you have something that's pretty formatted for your business or mutually agreed upon between two businesses. But that could take, I'm dealing with a situation now where like we did a deal 2 months ago and the contract is still being negotiated in some terms, but the event already happened. And I won't get into who, but so that 2 months and we're on a net 60. So that contract's not done. Then the invoice has to be sent once that contract's being
So
negotiated.
2 months is 60, plus you're on a net 60. So this is
No,
120 days.
You're not getting paid. Yeah.
You're not getting paid.
Yeah, and like so, and again, like there are many situations of ideally you close a deal, you sign a contract, or sometimes you don't even need a contract for some of these smaller deals. Issue an invoice, and then hopefully they'll pay you before net 60. Net 60 is pretty rare in my world, but it's happening right now. Net 30 is more common, but again, that net 30 doesn't kick in till you issue that invoice or get that contract signed. And then the problem is like you're as an entrepreneur, like you don't have much leverage against a massive company who's 2 weeks overdue on their payment. Like I'm not going to go to a studio and like I'm going to threaten a lawsuit over X amount of dollars. Like I'll want to lose a relationship, but also like they're going to be like, good luck like taking us to court.
Yeah.
So like as an entrepreneur, you quickly realize that there's not a lot of legal ramifications for big companies being late on their payments to you. So there's nothing you can do.
Why is it a problem for a small business to have a payment late when you're going to get paid anyway? Why is this a big issue?
Payroll. And so there's people, right, that expect they're now in the position of I get paid on this day every month. And I wake up every morning with like a hole in my chest being like, oh man, like I feel like there's a pressure on me to be like, I have to go and get this money in. Luckily now we've created a longer runway, but it falls on you. And like the last thing I want to do is like ever miss a payment for someone working for me. Cause like that's, they could quit. And like if they're a really talented individual, the promise that I have in any I wouldn't call myself an owner, whatever it may be, like people working for you, is that you're going to uphold your end of the bargain, which is paying them on time. So I struggled with it. And right now we're in hyper growth mode, and like I can only hire people when we get that money in the door. So it's something that I know every business owner, every operator struggles with, is that. And then again, that's why we're shifting hyper focused to an IP model, because that's more recurring, that's owned, that is something that you can control versus just hoping that companies will pay you on time.
Oh, can I show you another version?
Please, yeah.
The more horrific version?
Yeah. I got to finish this.
That's okay.
I didn't finish it.
So you do a deal with a brand in January.
Yeah.
For $100,000. And the event doesn't start till May.
Yeah.
Right? How many months is that? That's 5 months. They are on a net 60 deal. They are on a net 60 deal, May, June, July. So then they pay in July. And that is pay. And that is May, June, July. That's another 3 months. So now you have not only 8 months of payroll where you're servicing this deal before you get paid, but the deal also has costs. The costs of the deal that you need to run might be $60K.
Yeah.
So you got to put the $60K up front. You've got to pay 8 months of payroll, and then if they are Jesus and they pay on time, you get paid 8 months later. Now you stack that on to a business that's running 4 or 5 of these deals at once, a small business. This is how profitable companies still go bankrupt.
So we threw an award show on January 22nd. 500 assistants. Cost me, just being honest, $40K out of my pocket for just hard costs. And we decided to put that on 4 months prior and closed a lot of sponsorship for it, 15 brands. We're net 34 right now. And like, there's some net 60 deals there too. So like, yeah, that is, I'm coming from the event business, great point. And like this is something I'm dealing with at this very moment. And like, so how do you fix it? Can you? Like, I'm asking, like, how people navigate it? I mean, obviously like 50% upfront deposits, but
I never fixed it.
Yeah.
Like my up until the day I exit, cash flow was always a real pain.
Yeah.
And the only times we got by was when we just had enough cash in the bank to continue bankrolling the rest. But there were multiple times we had to go back to our investor and say, "Hey, we need another $500,000 here if we're gonna take these deals, because we can't afford to take these deals unless you cash flow us." It's why I was so happy with the job board, because it was zero upfront costs. The money came in when something closed.
Yep.
And building businesses that have closer to a net zero cash has been my whole brain change since running that media business.
And so that's why the pie chart changed so drastically. Like that's why I want 90% of my revenue to be guaranteed and have a clear schedule at which I know when it's going to come in. Because we're in the process now where I bankrolled this to this point, but we're having conversations with VC and many angels, and we raised for our tech company. But people make those decisions to take on a lot of cash because they have cash flow issues and regret it later because you're giving up, ownership of your company, and it's something out of necessity. Maybe not even for yourself, but to make sure you're paying other people that work for you.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, you're building a tech company. You're gonna in the AI space for the entertainment industry. There's going to be a lot of interesting things to talk about here. Matt, can you pull up the tweet that Jack Dorsey just posted a day or so ago? While Matt's pulling that up, I currently advise a lot of different companies.
Yeah.
One of the CEOs that I'm advising has he's probably got rid of 75% of his team in the last 4 weeks. His business is better than it's ever been.
Yeah.
It's a multi-million-dollar business, right? It's doing pretty well. And he's telling me that the AI agents and the AI systems mainly built on OpenClaw and similar things are now performing better than any employee he can hire that's 70 grand or under.
Yeah.
Which at the moment is your whole audience.
Yeah.
Right? This is your community.
Yep.
So if we read this tweet by Jack Dorsey, just so that we can prove here that this is scaling globally and not just my anecdotal view of the few companies that I consult. Jack Dorsey just tweeted this, right? Jack Dorsey is the founder of Twitter. He now runs Blocks, which is Square, and a whole bunch of other big tech companies that are public. This is what he says. Today, we're making one of the hardest decisions in the history of our company. We're reducing our organization by nearly half, from over 10,000 people to just under 6,000. That means 4,000 of you are being asked to leave or enter into consultation. I'll be straight about what's happening, why, and what it means for everyone. First off, if you're one of the people affected, you'll receive a salary, and he goes into how he's looking after everybody. Let's scroll down, Matt. He's paying people a lot. He's giving people 20 weeks worth of pay, healthcare. He's giving a budget. Can you scroll, Matt? I can't scroll down. A little bit more. That's it. Beautiful. So he's paying everyone 20 weeks of pay. He's giving people a budget for transitions. He's being incredibly generous. And he says that we're not making this decision because we're in trouble, and that's very key.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Our business is strong. Gross profit continues to grow. We continue to serve more and more customers, and profitability is improving, but something has changed. We're already seeing that the intelligence tools we're creating and using, paired with smaller and flatter teams, are enabling a new way of working which fundamentally changes what it means to build and run a company. And that's accelerating rapidly. A little bit more down, Matt. So this is him. This is an executive thinking about his business org chart right now, right? I had two options: cut gradually over months and years, and as it shifts. And he explains that he could do these cuts gradually, but it kills morale and it's terrible. Or he just makes the action now. Keep scrolling down, Matt. And a decision at this scale carries risks, but so does standing still. We've done a full review to determine the roles of the people we require to reliably grow the business from here, and we're pressure tested those decisions from multiple angles. I accept that we may have gotten them wrong, but we're building in flexibility to account. But we built in flexibility to account for that and do the right thing for our customers. And so this is a long tweet, but the punchline is he's firing a lot of people. A lot of companies are firing a lot of people, and it's not because they're in trouble.
Yep.
So who do you think of these? He's got 4,000 people he's fired out of a company that I think had 9,000 people.
Yeah.
Do you think the type of person that he's fired or he's got rid of is the entry-level employee, or do you think it's the kind of more seasoned, experienced operator, executive, team runner?
Yeah, for this, usually when you're making budget cuts, and would love to hear your thought on this, you're going for that mid-level because they're making enough that they can be replaced by someone less who's making less, someone less in rank, to replace some 70%, 80%. This decision is going to be a lot of entry-level people. I also think there's a lot of senior-level people who probably have been there at other companies, who can be replaced by, these autonomous agents, these agentic, this doesn't seem like, not verticalized that what we're building, but absolutely. And cheap as hell to run one of those. So that's the reality of the situation. And that's why we're building what we're building. What that doesn't have, that industry necessarily, is the relationship-based in type of connection that entertainment has. I think what makes us unique as an industry is it runs off of relationships. I guarantee you, if you manage a bunch of artists, I've worked with a bunch of artists, if you hand them an agent from the technical standpoint to run their business versus an agent to go and approach them with deals, not a single one of those is going to see that as an upgrade, even if they're making a little bit more money. I can't see that. There's a relationship there and a trust layer where that still exists in our industry, and who knows where it'll go in the next couple of years. But
tell me if I'm wrong here, right? Because in the relationships, fundamentally important. Executives in the entertainment industry have two values. They make decisions and strategy, and they actually are the ones on the phone. They're the ones in the meetings.
Yeah.
The entry-level employees are neither of those. They're chasing emails. They're doing administrative stuff. So they're not the relationships or the strategy. So replacing them doesn't actually sacrifice relationship because they're not the ones that have or are building the relationships.
Right now, couldn't agree more. There is a relationship aspect, strategy now, for the most part. What happens though in 3 to 5 years when those execs start to age out and need a new crop of talent? How are they going to then continue to build a company? Live is not going anywhere. I am extremely bullish on Live. Ari Emanuel is building an entire company around it. Many people are taking bets on Live right now, including myself. What happens in years down the line with those companies that replace their entire entry-level workforce that now need to bring on people who can grow within the company or take over positions of power? They would have to go, assumingly, like go and hire people from other companies who are senior as well. But those people had to have come from somewhere. And I think you're in certain industries replacing. If I could replace people probably at our company that are doing certain tasks. But for me to be successful, I need to grow people within for them to take positions of leadership and then take on, the job board, for instance, like have someone grow from understand it and then lead that position. If you eliminate entry-level employees, it will help you in the short term without a doubt. In your bottom line, 100%. Not a lot will change, on the strategy side, but 5 years down the line, 3 years down the line, that's an extremely short-sighted decision for a lot of these companies. What happens to your team at that point? Because you need to go and then hire people to replace. What if 10% of your team has moved on in the next 3 months to different roles? Maybe people are paying them more. You need to replace those with people, and just continuously hiring people is extremely expensive. And so
that's a very optimistic view I hadn't thought about before.
Yeah, but I mean, look, that's our bet is that assistants or entry-level people using AI will replace those who don't. We're delivering them a product that are going to allow them to eliminate a lot of the admin. Because I guarantee if you go into any of these agencies or any of these management companies and say, we'll replace your assistant with a chatbot AI agent, none of them, maybe some of the younger ones, but none of them are going to want, essentially like OpenAI or ChatGPT to replace their assistant. Claude-bot's insane. I mean, I use it every day, and it's helped me out a ton in certain areas, especially my personal life and finances. But they need a human being to be able to, as crazy as it sounds, like take responsibility for a lot of things that happen. And that's kind of in a weird way, that's why I think human assistance will remain. Because
will they happen at a 1/10 of the volume that it is now, though? Because if even the software you're building, which relies on human intervention in order for professional development, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I mean, if that person's doing 80%, 100% more volume, well, then you need half the assistants.
I won't get into the number there, because I hear what you're saying, and what you're saying isn't necessarily wrong. But I used to work 16-hour days. They still do. 56%. We did a mass survey is scheduling, and so that's the biggest pain point of admin. If you can lift that and start to look, I don't want to be preachy, but empower these assistants to actually be creative, to go and create relationships, to have strategy. then it becomes a lot more valuable to their company than just being a like whatever desk monkey and just like here, like schedule, move. Like that's all. If you can replace that with a human who then can provide value and increase your bottom line for your company, you've then just turned a corner of profitability for that specific role. And again, it's very different in other industries which are trying to enter entertainment and failing. All these companies are also trying to bring on people from Slack and other companies to try to build internally. But that very thing about there is a relationship base even at that assistant level that can't be replaced by, in the shortest term, I argue, by AI agents completely autonomously. It makes me hopeful for the next at least 3 years. But who knows what will happen, man? Like think about how much has changed in the past like 30 days. I think like Perplexity just came out with Perplexity Computer today, and it's just like every day there's something new. So I'm optimistic, but I felt the deep desire to build something to try to help empower people, but also at the end of the day, like save enterprises on churn and burnout who still need human capital.
I think if it comes back to this, what we're talking about is are you willing to work for free?
Yeah.
I think that's going to come more important than ever with this disruption, because there's not even going to be the assistant roles at these big companies as much. You know, if your tech can save half the jobs, fucking amazing. But it's still going to be only half the jobs there.
Yeah.
And so how do you get an unpaid internship if there's no unpaid internships available? And that probably means grinding yourself somehow and starting your own thing and figuring out how to work for free and add value to other companies or bands or artists or actors, you know, in your own sort of way.
Yeah.
And I think that's like going to be the only path forward in the new AI world, where you just got to figure out how to add value some way.
I mean, that's what I'm doing now. And like, that's why I took a bet on myself and our business. And we're seeing it happen. I mean, you've seen it happen in every other industry. Even ours, like entertainment hasn't been affected as much. They're extremely built on archaic platforms, and you aren't seeing a lot of layoffs because of AI yet. I think a lot of it is when you're looking at traditional Hollywood. We were talking about this yesterday. There's a contraction at the top of players. You know, you're seeing what's happening, not to get in TV film, but Warner Bros. Whatever happens there, Paramount will probably win. Maybe Netflix looks to be winning now. There will be a bunch of layoffs, but that's a contraction on the budget side. I'm not seeing yet a lot of contraction on the AI side for client-based entertainment, but it'll happen for sure. And like it's crazy to see what's happening in other industries though, especially coding. Like I vibe coded like 4 or 5 things to this point. I have zero experience on the technical side of things. I just wanted to build something one night, stayed up all night, built it like an interview test prep that we'll release. But yeah, I mean, that replaces a lot of people, but it's, I'm nervous for our kids' generation for sure. And like, I'm very happy that we, got to experience pre-AI world for sure.
I know. Yes, I agree. So Warner, our newsletters, the Black Hoody and Artists vs. Assistants, are the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So we have a few thousand executives at the top level of the music and comedy industry all around the world. You have tens of thousands of assistants, you know, all across America. If your audience could say one thing to my audience that they wouldn't say to their face, what would it be?
It's a great question. Pay us more. No, I mean, probably. But
even though we just spent a lot of time talking about the value of working for unpaid internships.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, you know, is, not to go back to the word empower, but so many of these young people have incredibly creative minds that have that level of strategy that previously weren't given a chance at these roles. Like when I was, even everyone who was an assistant at all these companies, you're in front of a screen doing admin all day. So I think, I don't know how to exactly phrase it, but listen to us, hear us out, give us a shot, that sort of thing. You know,
How does an executive listen to you and give you a shot?
So in signing meetings, for instance, one of my favorite stories that I always tell, who's someone who did give assistants a shot, Houston Powell, you may know him, used to call my boss and you know, he books some of the biggest festivals, and he would ask me, he would say, no, stay on the phone. Here's 2 artists. Who should I book? And he's booking for some of the biggest festivals, you know, in the US at that point. And he understands that his crowd are the people who are at that level, 22, 25 primarily, with some disposable income, hopefully, you know, aged up, probably now festivals, you know, in some regards have aged down even. But that's giving a shot to people who are in your demo of selling to. For me, I only hire people right now on our team who are either just seniors in college coming out or just out of college. That's not to save money or whatever. It is because they are the ones I'm selling to or in our community. How can we build for them? I was at a tech company previously that had brilliant 24, 25-year-old 3 co-founders, brought in senior exec who had been in the industry for a while, to, talk big talk and put on a good show, and drove that company to the ground in 4 months because he just didn't understand, like, that wasn't his world. So I think this generation has a ton to offer. I think they get a bad rep, and like I'm aged out of that generation. So like it's kind of funny that like I've now seen as like speaking for them, and I try not to, but I think a lot of them deserve a shot to be heard out, like not just be put in front of a computer and have to do admin all day. And they're the ones that are the tastemakers. Influence flows up at a lot of these companies. So not all of them will want to have a POV, but I think a lot of them do have really unique ones that I hear. The reason why we've scaled so fast is because like we have high feedback loops that we can talk to our audience and what do you want to build? What are the things that are important to you? And we build them and they're received really well. So that's what I would say. Just like give us a shot, hear us out. But I'll let them speak for themselves. Like again, I'm aged. It's funny that like people look at me like the assistant. I'm like 33. I'm like out of that world for sure. But yeah, I think a lot of smart people in that generation.
So that brings me to my last question then. So you spent all this time building the voice of these assistants, entry level of the entertainment industry, and now you're signed to ETA and UTA. I'll say it again. And now you're signed to UTA and building all of this IP, and you're building what will hopefully be a very big business. At what point do you become the person that everybody starts making jokes about?
I mean, it's already happened for sure when I signed to UTA. I was a client at CA for years before, so whatever. But I gotta, I have to prove it, and like I hopefully have to this point. But it's a great question. Like I think about it all the time. It's like someone, his name's Liam, like wrote a comment about like, okay, you made fun of you were at an agency, you made fun of an agency, you left an agency, you're signed to an agency, now you're clients, the full circle. But look, like I'm less so. Like I don't see myself again as a creator. I see myself as building businesses for the future of the industry. So as long as I stay aligned to that path, but I want to be checked, right? If I do something, if I start like, if you see me start recording like a selfie video out in the street, being like, look at me with this, whatever, like check me on that. I deserve to be canceled at that point, but I'm not going to get to that. But
no PJ selfies?
No, man, I'm not, I don't like being in front of the camera besides doing this. Like, talking about things that are important. I think building in public is also really important. So yeah, I mean, it's ironic as hell, but again, I never meant to like turn this into anything more than an Instagram, but I'm purpose driven now to grow into something that does some good in an industry that we're told every day is dying. It's gone. It's like live was gone and now it's back, and Hollywood shrinking and dying. And our whole lens is entertainment's never been a better place to work. You just have to be pretty creative on where to look, and where the opportunities are. And you look in the creator economy. Like I think legacy really looks down on them, but there's a ton of opportunity there. So yeah, it's ironic as hell. I have an agent team now after coming from in the lens of the account. But again, like they allow me to provide more resources to hopefully be helpful to a lot of people.
Warner, I'm super inspired about how you started, what you're building, the business you're growing. It's actually very inspiring. I tried to get you on the podcast many times. I'm very grateful you finally said yes. Thank you so much for coming on the Black Hoody.
I appreciate you, man. It means a lot. I was here, and congrats to you, and thanks for the convo.